Welcome, Brett. I actually haven't asked you if I can call you Brett. Can I call you Brett
No,
or
you can. You
Brittany?
can call me whatever you
Okay,
want. That's fine.
great start. Welcome to the podcast, and
Thank
thank you
you.
so much again for making some time on your late Sunday to join
It's
me.
my pleasure.
Well, I thought what best to start by just giving us a little intro about who you are today, what you like doing, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Brittany, or Britt, if you want to call me that. I'm from the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, so in Australia, and I am a clinical nutritionist. So I specialize in women's health and hormones, and an astrologer, as well as being now Cert 3 and 4 certified in fitness and teaching Pilates. So I kind of do a lot in like the health and fitness space and like spirituality as well, very much passionate about all things really into like a witchcraft. That's been kind of like a more recent addition. So that's kind of like my days are filled just I spend like 99.9% of my time alone. I have a giant rabbit, so it's just me and her and my bird at the house. And we kind of just hang out on the floor. We just do tarot cards. I journal a lot. I usually do like painting or craft stuff or hang out in the garden. It's just like pottering around as much as I can be off screens as possible because I feel like a lot of my work, especially in the nutrition space, is all online now. So I do spend a lot of time on screens in that regard. So everything else that I do is pretty much away
I
from that.
love that. That sounds so nice. I used to have a pet bunny too, so I can fully relate to the love of a
How
bunny.
cute. Yeah.
How good. And so, I guess, when did you decide to embark in that astrology or like that witchcraft um, side gig that you mentioned?
Yeah. The astrology came while we were in like the lockdown with COVID when that first hit. I just left my husband and then we all went like the whole world basically stopped, and so I had a lot of time to kind of sit and process. And I was really into astrology, more just star signs as a child, and didn't really understand that there was a whole natal chart that we all had with all of our planets and the positions and all of the things. All I knew was I'm a Gemini and I loved that. And so I had all this time at home and just started following my curiosity, and that led to me doing an online course. And then I was working part-time in a cafe as like we were able to kind of go back to work, and just happened to meet a lady that ran a clinic as a naturopath across the road, and she also studied advanced astrology courses. And so we got chatting and then studied with her for years, and then went on to just offer that now as part of my services, doing chart readings and making a whole lot of content on TikTok just around the moon and the stars and the planets and all the things. So yeah, it was just really funny. I just kind of unfolded. Like, you just kind of follow your curiosity, and it just you don't know what comes out of it. It's how Pilates happened as well. Like, I didn't decide I'm going to be a Pilates instructor. I was just at the gym, loved doing Pilates. The ladies at the gym were like, "We need more instructors. Do you want to go through the course and do the training?" And I was like, "Okay." And
Epic.
then
I love how those things
now here I
happen.
am.
Yeah. What percentage
Yeah.
of your week is focused on like training and Pilates versus astrology and nutrition?
Yeah, that's been a something that's come up this last week because I actually teach 7 days. Like, I'm teaching at least a class a day, but most days it can be up to like five or six. And then I'm also training on top. And I love it because you don't really realize when you like something
Mm.
if it's kind of tiring you out. And it was just the last few days, and I'm like, my God, my legs are just forever sore. Like, I'm permanently just in pain. And I'm like, to be honest, I don't think I ever sit down. Like, rarely will I sit still and do nothing. And so this was my job for the weekend, was to do nothing and be horizontal as much as possible. And I think I achieved that. It was good. So yeah, a lot of the week is spent doing Pilates, whether me doing it or I'm at the gym already training or I'm teaching. And then nutrition wise, it's usually 2 days out of the week. And then astrology kind of slots in because my chart readings are recorded, so that people will order them and then I'll record them. Usually my best times of work is like 4 a.m. So I'll then get up at 4 a.m. and just quickly record it in the morning, and then I usually write up like a little astrology ebook for them that they can print out and do all of those things. And like, they're my most focused hours, is like the crack of dawn. So I'll just get up and do my work then. And then I've got the rest of the day to kind of see clients and teach classes, which happen usually at nighttime or again throughout the morning. So it all kind of just ties in. But then I do find that I am working 7 days a week, which is something that I'm kind of thinking more about now, about actually having downtime because it is
Yeah,
important.
it is. Can I ask you, do you have ADHD?
I haven't been diagnosed, but I'm like, I'm fairly certain because that's something I look into a lot. But yeah, I'm like, there's no been formal diagnosis as yet, but it's something that's like on my list to do because I'm just like, it all adds up.
Yeah, I can just relate to a bit of like your functioning, and I was diagnosed early this year. But so far, one, two, three, four of the women that I've interviewed that are not in my close circle of friends have ADHD, and there's this similar pattern of all the things we like to do, and then the winding down just comes. Yeah,
Yeah, he's kind of
yeah.
obsessed. I think, yeah. And it makes sense. Like when I think back, I'm like, again, I'm not a professional to be able to diagnose this, but I've been interested in learning about like neurodivergency as well. So I've done so much reading on it and just like looked up different research to understand like nutrition wise what works. And I've kind of created my lifestyle to be suited to someone that could be ADHD, but I'm thinking possibly autism, and mostly because when I think back to like my childhood, there was so much that I had where I had this conflict between like the need for freedom and novelty and spontaneity, and then this obsession with having structure and feeling safe within these confines of these routines that I build. And then that kind of manifested as this kind of like OCD type picture as a child, these weird like sleep habits that I had and rituals I had to have around bedtime, and then an eating disorder that developed, drug issues that developed, like these like addictive type um, behaviors. And now that I like am in my mid 30s and I reflect back over that, I'm like, that actually makes more sense considering the level of anxiety I had. It never really felt like I just had like generalized anxiety. Always felt like it was around a break of routine or feeling so stuck by my own routines that I've self-imposed, and a need to suddenly escape and have this like chaos, which I think is a lot of like that ADHD, and then the routines coming from that like autism type picture. But
Hmm.
again, it's on my list to actually talk to someone and maybe formally diagnosed because I'd be keen to know.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think, if anything, often when we go through those experiences, like you mentioned, we can be quite harsh on ourselves in regards to why am I like this?
Mm.
But I think, if anything, the diagnosis, if it is the case, just helps validate that this is beyond your control. This is
Yeah.
not just you being crazy. It just happens because it's something else biologically, anatomically that, functions that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I wanted to ask you, when you decided to start astrology, and obviously from young age, you already had this inkling towards astrology. When did you ever have your first like natal chart reading, if you ever did?
Yeah, my friend bought with the lady that I studied with. She bought for me for my 30th a chart reading by her, and it was great because already I was doing the course with her. So when we sat down to do the chart, she's like, "I'm going to skip over obviously the basic stuff because we've covered that in class, and we're going to go even deeper." And she was just like, the way she articulated everything and just explained my chart, I was like, that's actually out of control. Like there was such specificity. Because I understand like astrology for some people, it's just like it's so generalized and like how is it even true and all the rest of it. And it is more just like this energetic blueprint. I always think of it as like the current with the tide. It's like here in Australia, like we grew up on the beach and getting caught in a rip, it's kind of counterintuitive, but you're meant to not try and swim against it and fight it. You're meant to let it kind of carry you out. And so you kind of drift out and then can actually swim in where the rip's not sucking you out into the ocean. And similar to like with astrology, it's like you can fight against it and work against it. You don't have to acknowledge that it exists or understand the transits that are happening and working with them. You can go against them. But I feel like life flows so much easier if you understand where the current's kind of pulling you and allow yourself to be taken there. And I felt like that's the experience I had understanding my child. Like she pinpointed where I'd stopped breastfeeding as a child at around 4 months. And I only know that because my mum just has reminded me of it time and time again because she took it as like a personal offense that I was rejecting her. Like her words are that I just suddenly rejected her and she's not good enough. And I'm like, one, I'm a child, like I'm 4 months old. I have no idea. Like I'm sorry. And then when she had my chart reading done, she was just like, look, there's a point here that severed part of a bond here with you and your mum. Like something would have happened around the 4 month mark. And I remember her saying that. And I was like, I stopped breastfeeding then. She's like, that's that's it. Like there's just so many like just little things that was coming up from that chart reading that I just thought, this is incredible.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a big fan of everything spiritual. And I think you just have to hit with the right people to kind of really grasp it, you
Yeah.
know. I've recently had a numerology reading. And same, like I've had natal chart readings before,
Mm.
but just even with numbers throughout my life and with people in my family and stuff like that. And it's just fascinating the depth that you can take it to actually understand events that
Mm.
happened and why they happened and how we behave and operate around each other.
Yeah, definitely. When I first started studying, because obviously I was divorced at this point, and then as the years went on and I was still studying, I started experimenting without just giving full chart readings. When I started dating again, I started being like, what's your time of birth? And like looking up their chart and then like being able to understand these people and explain it to like men who had no real understanding of astrology or interest in it. And I would just like waffle on. I'm like, and then you could like communicate this way and you might think this way. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, how are you describing me? And I was like, this is astrology. Like, it was just so exciting.
So
And then I
cool.
actually progressed and offered it as part of my business services now, and I felt more confident. But yeah, it kind of started out with me talking to men on dating apps and giving them
Yeah, I love
little chart
that.
readings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And do you mind if I ask you a bit about that ex relationship, your ex husband?
Yeah, yeah.
And you mentioned that that was right before COVID or during COVID. Could you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so we separated the end of 2019, and then for us in Australia, it was like the beginning of 2020 was when it started really spreading, and I think we went into lockdown kind of early-ish, early to mid that year. Um, So it was kind of, I don't know, it was well timing, I guess, for me because I had time to just be home and grieve and process and I wasn't forced to be like, you know, managing still like full time work and social calendar and all the rest of it. Obviously, it was a very horrible time for a lot of people. But yeah, we got together. It was so funny. He's polar opposite to anyone I'd ever dated before. So my dating history growing up was um, kind of abusive and went from like abusive to someone who was like cheating on me and it was very turbulent and chaotic to someone who was like a drug addict to then meeting my ex-husband. We actually met in church. I had like my come to Jesus moment. I was actually in the church for a while. No one in my family is, so I was kind of like going against everyone else by doing that, but it got me out of a very dark place mentally and away from a lot of like really harmful situations and relationships that I was in. And then as I progressed kind of in the church, I was like, I don't really fully subscribe to the teachings. Um, and so I ended up like not being a part of it anymore, but married a man in the church and he was polar opposite. Like he was so respectful, so kind, barely drank, like wouldn't even slouch. Like he's the most punctual, like just the sweetest person, the nicest person you would ever meet in your life. So well mannered, so respectful. And then we started dating when I started my degree doing nutrition and I then moved to Sydney. So we kind of did a year long distance. Then he moved to Sydney. We never lived together. And then he proposed within, I think we were only together for like just over a year. And then he proposed. And then we got married the year after. And then we were only married for 3 years. And again, there was nothing wrong with the relationship, with the marriage, but we just weren't compatible. I think on paper it was like really good. And in my mind, I like relied on logic rather than my emotions and was like, but he's a safe option. Like he would never hurt you and never harm you. Like I come from such harmful situations. It was like, this is where you can finally be safe. Like, why would you ever say no to this person? Like he's offering you a ring, he's down on one knee. Like you don't say no to this man. And then I just realized that we weren't like we'd have conversations and I'd be waffling on about like what's the universe like and what happens after we die and like all of this like and he'd just be like, okay. Like we just didn't have this common ground when it came to things we were interested in. And so I remember just feeling very like bored in the relationship. It just was a bit, I don't know, we just didn't really get on in any other way apart from just feeling safe, I suppose. That was like the biggest thing. Like our senses of humor were very different. I then realized that I kind of became a version of myself that was much more watered down, conservative, like everyone in my family were very sarcastic and um, quite silly and childlike, which is great. But then with him and his family, it was very like very religious, very heavy on that. So just the kind of language I had to use and just the way, yeah, I just really couldn't be myself. And so I think that made me feel quite depressed because I felt just very like stifled and kind of caged in. But again, you kind of sit there and you're like, but he's so nice and this is such a safe thing and this is right. Like, why would you leave? Like, everyone's just like invested. You just had a wedding. Like, so many people have like rallied alongside you and like helped put this wedding together, like financially helped you and supported you. Like, so there's like so much responsibility. And I was like, well, you've said till death, you've said vows. So that's why you've got to stay in this now. And then, yeah, I made the decision to leave after we ended up doing a trip to Europe together. And we didn't spend like any time together. Like, we were in Europe for 6 weeks and I was walking around just with headphones in and he was about a kilometer down the road. Like, we're just kind of doing our own thing. And I was thinking, like, this isn't like a husband and wife. This isn't like a marriage. This isn't like, what are we doing? Like, he deserves to be with someone that's like obsessed with him and to be happy. And I deserve the same as well. So we were in Austria and I just kind of was like, we hadn't spoken for like 3 days. And I was like,
Oh,
maybe we should separate. And he was just like, okay. And then that was kind of it. Like, it was very like, okay. And then when we got home, we separated, and the whole process was just very civil and amicable. And he was so supportive of everything. And we just stayed like friends afterwards. Like, it was like there was no bad feelings, no bad blood. It was actually a really beautiful experience in that sense. Um, yeah, we don't really keep in touch now. Like, he's just had a baby from what I've heard. So yeah, he's happy, settled down with a baby, doing his thing. And then I got to come home and left the church, left my husband, became an astrologer, and just went on about with my life. And here I am.
wow, what a story. I can just imagine from what everything you've just explained, the safety that that provided, how that would be such an anchor. How old were you when you married him?
Would have been 25 or 26.
Hmm. And so when you married, say, and you were looking forward in time, in that safety, what did you kind of envision, or maybe you actually chatted together about plans and dreams that you both had? Did you talk about starting a family?
We did. We did. So this is a really great thing that the church, I think other people do it outside of the church, but within the church, when you are getting married, you do premarital counseling and they bring up a lot of these questions of like, okay, well, like, who's going to assume what roles in the household? Like, how are you going to navigate like socializing? Are you going to have people over once a week? Are you going to be going out a lot? Like, how are you actually going to like structure your lives together? Which I think was really helpful because so many people, I think, assume what a relationship will look like, and then you partner up with someone and realize that they're embodying more qualities that they saw modeled to them from their parents, and you're taking on stuff you've seen modeled to you from your family and intimate relationships. So it's like two separate people trying to come together and make a household and a marriage and a relationship work. So we had all those questions come to us, and I think one thing that was like a major pitfall in the relationship was he had an he was such an obliger and he had such like, he would just do anything that was asked of him, and then I don't think he ever really said how he truly felt about a lot of things, and so he'd just be such a yes man. So for me, I was like, this is great, I'm like, we should do this. He's like, yes. I'm like, and we can do this. He's like, yes. And I was just kind of like told yes all the time. And then as we were separating, we had counseling again. And it kind of came up then that he was just like, we only ever get to do what she wants to do. And it's always her way. And I'm like, I always ask him, like, what do you want to do? And it's always like, whatever you want to do, I'm happy. And then I think he just quietly kind of started building up these resentments towards me because he never had voiced what he truly felt a lot of the time. So when maybe he was frustrated by things that I'd said or done, he wouldn't say anything. And so obviously I'm oblivious to what I'm doing, upsetting him. I'm going to keep doing it. And so it just
Yeah.
kind of, I think, eroded away a lot of that part of the relationship. But we did talk a lot about what we wanted to do. Because he's an exercise physiologist, I was doing my degree in nutrition. So I was like, we're gonna be like, we could have a business together. Like, we should start doing lives on Instagram. Like, we could have podcasts, like, and all these, like, I want to be like entrepreneur. And he's like, no, I just want to turn up to my job, get my paycheck. And like, I don't want that stress of like hustling and building something. And I'm like, okay, I think he wanted the lifestyle that his parents and his brother had, which was you get married, you buy the house, you have the kids, you work your 9 to 5. And in my mind, I'm like, kill me now. That sounds horrendous. I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I don't want to buy a house. I don't know if I want to have kids. Like, I'm like, oh my god. But then while we were together, interesting thing happened. My body, it's funny, I always wear, like, these rings that I've got on, I never take these off, never had an issue. My wedding band kept giving me dermatitis,
Wow.
and it was, like, proper, like, rose gold. I'd always get dermatitis, and I'd have to keep taking it off all the time to let the skin heal. These, I literally got, like, tan lines, I never take them off, no issues whatsoever. And then during, like, our relationship where we got married, we didn't have sex until we actually were married, I lost my estrogen. Like, I had my period went, and I went and had bloods done, and, like, you're not ovulating and you have undetectable estrogen, it could be early menopause. I'm like, my body is rejecting this marriage. And, like,
Whoa.
we were talking about having kids, and I'm like, well, we can't, because, like, my body's literally just shutting down and not do didn't go into menopause, and I'm now having a regular 28-day cycle, and hormones are at their best. But
Isn't that
yeah, I'm
crazy?
thinking, I'm like, it's so bizarre how all of this happened. Like, body's just like screaming at me to be like, this isn't right. But it was so hard to accept because he'd never done anything wrong. Like, there was nothing wrong with this man. He was perfect, but it just wasn't for me, which is, yeah, that took me a while to kind of just
Yeah.
acknowledge that and understand that by me staying was doing a disservice to him. It wasn't me being a martyr by, like, forcing myself to stay somewhere I wasn't happy. But yeah,
Wow, I can relate to so many of the things from,
yeah,
you don't even have to belong to the church, but the people pleasing and the non communicating. At the end of the day, if you're not voicing what you're feeling, that builds up. We are human. Like, you
yeah,
can't just brush everything under the rug. And wow, yes, just even the dermatitis thing. I was actually speaking to a friend yesterday about breast implants that she got done as a young 23-year-old, that the beauty standards at the time were very different to what they are now, and she doesn't have any kind of psoriasis, eczema, like anything like that, and she started getting this massive rash out of the rejection that her body and her mind was feeling towards these
yeah,
boobs.
wow.
So anyway, the point I'm getting to is that the body does speak for ourselves, whether it's constant headaches, fatigue, like call it whatever. I think the symptoms, if you kind of have a bit of a holistic view, you can kind of start seeing, I guess, more in hindsight, why those things happened, which
Yeah.
is just mind blowing.
Oh, definitely.
When you went through the divorce, you're 30 at the time or about to turn 30.
Yeah, yeah.
What, obviously, you could see that the relationship wasn't what you wanted. Did you feel like you were still in love? What was that transition to being single, and like maybe things that came up in regards to your identity, like shifts that you were kind of like going through?
Yeah, it was really interesting. The build up to me, like, wrestling I wrestled with the idea for like about 12 months of, like, do I stay, do I go? Like, what do I do? And just feeling like in knots about it. And I remember, I don't know where I got the quote from. I heard a quote, something about you can measure what you lose, but you can't see what you'll gain. And I remember just like holding on to that. Cause I'm like, I could easily, like, you can measure, like, I'm going to lose a husband. I'm going to lose, like, living with him. I'm going to lose, like, all this security and this safety within what is known to me is going to be lost, but I cannot see outside of that what you'll actually gain from that, like what you're going to actually get back given to you for honoring yourself and for honoring him and respecting him enough to actually walk away and leave. And as soon as I did, I became myself again. Even my sister and I were super close, and we drifted apart. And she was just like, I felt like I just couldn't talk to you. Like, I didn't know who you were. Like, you were just so, like, reserved and quiet and withdrawn. And it was like, like, what the hell is this? And so reconnected with so many old friends from school, like people I hadn't spoken to in years were calling me to be like, hey, we heard about, like, what happened, like, are you okay? And it was just actually really beautiful, kind of overwhelming. So I'm like, I didn't even realize these people were still in my life. And so it was kind of like a return to this old self, but with much more maturity. And then, yeah, about to turn 30, and I was living back home with my mum, and it was just like kind of a novelty to it, that it's like, mum was very accepting. My mum had been through a divorce before, so for our family, it was just like, "Oh, well, like, that's fine, like, you made the right choice." Whereas I always felt guilty for his side of things, because I think he's the only one in his family to have ever had a divorce. Like, everyone's been married. Whereas our family, everyone's divorced. My brother got divorced around the same time that I was as well, so it's kind of just a more normalized thing. There wasn't as much shame, I guess, attributed to it as it may have been on his end, but again, I can't speak for what his experience was like. So it was so, yeah, it was bittersweet. In one breath, it was like obviously sad that relationship ended, and I guess it was so nice that we got to stay on such good terms because it wasn't like there was any resentment, anger, or fighting or like any bitterness there. And so we could still stay in touch. We didn't like go catch up for coffees or anything like that, but just kept in touch, like birthdays and Christmas, just like a message here and there. Um, and then, yeah, just reconnect with a whole bunch of new friends, old friends. Felt like I kind of found my footing and my voice more. My business kind of took a turn to be completely different, restructuring it with now like more of the astrology, exploring more of my spirituality, and just becoming, obviously, that became more of a hyperfixation. And I just kind of built my life around that, which, yeah, it was really fun.
That's so cool. I can relate to two things: the amicable breakup. I think it's actually so healing to be able to do it in those terms, because if I think and reflect on any other breakup in the past, the anger, the sadness, the frustration is so heightened that I think it just leaves you lingering in that pain for a way longer period. Whilst here, I think there's a sense of clarity all along and acceptance, which is a bit like that analogy of the rip that you were saying before, where you're just going and trusting with the decision that you're making.
Mm.
Did you feel like it was something like that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was like once I just made the call, we had the conversation, it was just like huge weight was lifted. I was like, I feel like I can breathe again now. Like we have, don't know what's coming, but it's just whatever.
Whatever.
Like I'm just going to kind of roll with it. And I
Yeah.
just continued with that approach to life, I think. And I feel like it's so hard because like we have this society where it's like you've got to work, you got to hustle, you got to grind, you've got to like, especially as women, we're like raised to believe like you got to find a man, you got to get married, you've got to have kids, like it's what you've got to pursue. And it's like to rebel against it at first, you're just like, there's no real blueprint on how to do life. But then if you just kind of follow the good feeling, I suppose, and just let that lead you, it's like you've got to trust that because it's going to open doors for you and just stay open to receiving whatever comes rather than thinking you need to control every part of it because there's like the reality is you can't actually control anything.
Mm,
Um, and I do take it sounds kind of morbid, but it's like that nihilistic approach of just like, well, we're all gonna die regardless. Like we're all heading towards the same goalpost. It doesn't really matter what you do or don't do in this life. We're all headed for the same ending.
mm,
And so none of this actually matters. I mean, you can look at that in a really like morbid way to be like, wow, nothing matters, or like nothing matters. Like it's all good.
mm.
Who cares?
Absolutely.
So I kind of just remind myself of that most
Yeah,
days.
I do the same. I do the same. I think what I've been anchoring onto more than anything, and I've spoken about this in other episodes, is the impermanence of things. It
Mm,
kind of comes from that, call it morbid or call it Buddhist, by the same token, because it's that nothing is forever. So if you fight things and control things to make them last forever, everything is so beyond our control. And it's only when you really tap into that flow state of this is what is, and this is what I'm accepting as of now and will flow and change, then there's so much abundance. Like, I think you really just have to have gone through it and, fight the fears of, oh my gosh, I'm back at mum's. Like, what the heck? I'm 30 and, all those intrusive thoughts that come in. And then suddenly, at least I speak for myself, I found myself at mum and dad's with no plan whatsoever of what life's going to look like in the next 6 months, and be like, how can I be so content versus a year prior trying to control everything around life, call it family, relationship, house, work, everything, and be so anxious and such a mess. So it's just a little invite for anyone who's feeling, like there's a calling to just go and push through that fear, because there is definitely magic on the other end. I truly believe. Yeah. Yeah. And the reclamation of your voice is the most important thing. I think there's a sense of trust that sinks so deep when you've reached that point that, yeah, it's that whatever and who cares mindset.
yeah.
Did you feel like, I guess you were in that marriage in that period, but did you feel like you went through a Saturn return at any point in that process?
It was during that period, yeah. During that divorce itself was all happening alongside my Saturn return, go figure. And then obviously I had my chart reading done at 30, and then that was brought up. And it was funny, she used, when she was reading my chart, she was talking about relationships, and she's like, oh yeah, that marriage was never going to last. And she's like, it's almost like you went from the drug addict to the, what did she call it? She said the drug addict to the one that found God or something. And she just used that as like a metaphor to say you went from one extreme to the other. And I'm like, the irony was my exes were literal drug addict and someone who was in the church. So I was like, when she said that, I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
them. Sure is.
Wow. That's so nuts. Yeah. I feel like I went through, mine lasted for a very long time, I think. But again, I just kind of was pushing away the spiritual downloads, I guess, and sticking to the rational mindset of what had to be done and how things should be. And I guess if you fight it, then you get a bit more tangled in that process.
Yeah. I feel like we need so much more like stillness in our lives, which again we fight against because it's like your intuition doesn't scream at you like anxiety and fear does. It kind of just drops in. But we're so overstimulated and distracted and have such tight schedules with like constant input coming in that it's like we often aren't hearing the little niggles, and it takes us getting to such these extreme circumstances to finally be like, oh my God, I've got to make a change here, like a mad health crisis or sudden loss of job or like something major happens where it's like, I think if we had a bit more stillness and allowed ourselves to actually like be bored and be in silence for a while, you'd probably listen to so much more of your intuition and be able to actually make the call based off of that more rapidly, and it not actually
Mm.
getting to the point, like for me in my marriage, like the point of that, I could have actually just listened to the little nudges. Like when he proposed, for example, I remember it dropped in then where I was just like, everyone feels sick, like they're going to throw up when they get proposed to, right? My friends are like, no, I was really excited. I cried. And I was like, okay. Like
Okay.
there's little things throughout our relationship. I'm like, we're just having the same argument over and over again. Like we just don't seem to communicate. And it's like, we don't have good conflict resolution. I'm just like, what are we doing? But then my brain's like, but no, no, no. Like this is what you should do. He's nice. He's not going to cheat on you. He's not addicted to drugs. Like he's going to be the kindest, sweetest
Yeah.
person and do everything for you. What are you doing? But it was like there was so many little whispers that I just kind of ignored the whole way. I just kind of should myself into it. But yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess from that experience now, maybe I got this wrong, but have you just been on like a celibacy journey, like celibate for some years and sober too?
Yeah. So it was June last year. There was a Gemini new moon. And then I remember, 'cause I always did it with the lunar cycle, where I was like, I'm going to have a period of complete sobriety. And with that, boy sobriety. So no dating, no talking stages. And I was like, how do I structure this so I know the boundaries that are in place if like a man spoke to me, for example? I'm a straight woman, so women it didn't really apply to. But like if a man spoke to me, like where's the leniency? Like what will I and won't I allow? And I just kind of thought of it as like if you were in a relationship with someone, what would you deem appropriate conversations with people of the opposite sex? And so I just approached it that way of like as if I was dating myself. Cause I'm like, it takes a good 6 months to fully get to know someone. And I'm like, I change as a person so frequently, but I haven't actually stopped to like reconnect with this version of myself and like truly know who I am now that I'm like fully living alone. I relocated. I'd gone through like another breakup just with a boyfriend that I've been living with. And so I was like, who am I without all of this external kind of input from like other men? So like when you're in relationships, they can influence you to some degree. So like without that and without external validation that comes from like going out and drinking and anything that can like distract me from actually focusing on myself and doing that inner work. So I gave myself 6 months, and then December came around and I ended up having a drink on New Year's after the 6 months, and then realized not for me, didn't really care, have more fun without it. Like there's no, doesn't serve a purpose anymore. So now I've just gone completely sober. So as of the 1st of January, technically now. So today it's 333 days. So I like that because of that angel number.
Love that.
And then the celibacy, after the December came around, the 6 months happened. I was like, look, I'm open to dating. And what happened was there was no prospects to date. It's not like you just turn around and you're like, okay, I'm going to date again. And then suddenly you've got a lineup of people. I was like, I'm open to the idea. I'm probably going to be more receptive. I'm probably going to like put myself out there. Um, I don't agree with the apps. I feel like they make you meet people you're never supposed to meet. And so I was like, I don't want to do that. And then I got to a point where I thought, maybe I could date women. Like I've never actually like, have I just been conditioned to be heterosexual, or is it because I don't walk around feeling sexually attracted to men? Like I think I'm much more demisexual, where you need to have an emotional attachment to someone. So I'm like, who knows? Maybe I could develop that with a woman, because
Mm.
it's not such a physical urge for me. I don't see men and think yes. It's more once I've actually developed a relationship with them. So I did download a dating app because I thought I'm going to explore this, and I set it to show me everyone, to be men and women. And I didn't meet any women on there. No dates actually came of that, but I did go on one horrific date with a man. It was not. It was a nightmare.
Please tell
Um,
me.
so we just went out for like lunch. It was daytime. Went for sushi, um, and we got that. We'd only had very minor surface level conversation leading up to this, to kind of just arrange to go out and get sushi. They just moved here, so they weren't familiar with the area. So I was like, this could be really fun. They seem very adventurous. They want to like be outdoorsy, and I'm like, look, if anything, I could have a new friend that I could go and do activities with on the weekend. Like this could be really fun. Um, and we got to the date, and they went to hug me to greet me, and they stank of alcohol, but not like they'd been drinking that day. We'd both been at work that morning. It was like that next day beer smell where it's seeping out of your pores. I was like, I don't care. But also it was like, why do you smell so much like beer? It's like you've been soaking in a tub of beer all day. And then then we end up going to the beach and then sushi. And while we were at sushi, there was a couple of times where I'd said something and they reply with like, gay. And I was like, I don't know if we say that anymore. Like, and this man's in his mid-30s as well. Like he wasn't young. Like we're in the same age bracket. And then we were talking about travel stories. They traveled around a lot. And I was talking about when I used to live in the UK when I was 19, I was mugged. Like I was hit across the face by a group of guys and they robbed me. And it was actually really traumatic. And his first question that he asked me was, were they black? And I thought that's a really unusual thing to
Big
ask
time.
first up. Not like, oh my God, like, were you okay? Like, that's horrible. It was just, and were they black? And I'm like, I don't know why you'd ask that, but like, they were, but then I felt weird answering that honestly, because I didn't want to then feed into his like racist kind of rhetoric they already had going on. It's like, okay. And he's like, no, 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 I just say that because like where I grew up, I was robbed by Indigenous boys growing up, and then just continued to carry on with a lot of stuff to do with race that I was like, that's wildly inappropriate. And I was like, what the hell is this guy going on about? And I was like, kind of, when people are saying something that's so shocking, I'm not surrounded by this in my day to day. Like all my friends, that we have the same kind of views on other human beings and like minority groups. And so to hear someone speak just so openly and so horribly, I was like, what's actually going on? And then we continued to talk about travel, and they started talking about Hitler in like a positive way. And I was like, who is this person? I'm
Oh
thinking
my
I need to go home.
gosh.
I cannot be here anymore. And the conversation
Yeah.
kind of kept going progressively worse. Then they started talking. I don't remember the exact comment that they made, but they made a comment about fat people. And I said, what you're saying is really fat phobic. And he's like, no, I don't think it is. And I was like, can I answer me this? Do you believe that people you deem to be overweight or fat, like, do you think it's their fault that they're like that? And he's like, 110%. And I was like, no. And I ended up standing up just yelling at this man, like finger in his face, just yelled at him. And then I
I
was
mean, he
like,
deserves it.
yeah, I was like, there's so, like, everything you said. I'm like, what? I was lost for words,
Where have you been living?
honestly. And so
Yeah.
I finger in his face, yelled at
Oh my
him. And then it ended
God.
on, thank you for lunch. And then just walking off, getting my car, blocking him, deleting Hinge. And I was like, never again. That was like people like that are just walking around.
Wow.
I was shook.
Oh my
Anyway, so
gosh.
yes,
Yes. So no more dating apps.
not a
No
lot of
weirdos. Yeah.
prospects, no weirdos. I did go on actually a better dating story only 2 weeks ago, um, which has been really nice. We've continued to see each other, so that's kind of just been like something going on in the back end. And it was like the nicest date, dare I say, I've ever been on. Very just traditional. Like they showed up with flowers. They booked a restaurant. It was like 3-course meal. Like it was just like so sweet. And I was like, what is going on? Like I didn't think this still existed, because I've only heard like a lot of horror stories around in the dating kind of environment. So I haven't been too fussed about missing out on
Yeah, fair
any
enough.
of it. So yeah, so that was our first date, and then second date again turned up with flowers, and we
That's
did some
so
aqua golf.
sweet. Aqua
So it's
golf.
like you're teeing off on the green, and then you're teeing off into water, and there's like little floating nets with baskets that float around that you can win prizes and things on. So we did that, and then again did another dinner. Yeah, and then this weekend we've kind of gone to the movies. We go to the gym together. It's just like very easy.
Organic.
Yeah, that's been really nice.
Promising. That sounds really beautiful. A little dose of hope for all the single girlies in their
Yeah,
30s. There's men that still bring you flowers on a first date.
there are.
That's pretty beautiful.
First and second date. Very sweet. Just like all just the very just normal kind of common, like there's nothing extreme really. It's just basic kind of manners and showing care. And
I love
I'm
that.
like, oh my God, what's going on? Like just so
Yeah.
overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really nice.
Beautiful. What would you say now that you've had, your time of being single, of being in your mid 30s now or close to your mid 30s? What are things that you're like, this is what I want, or this is what I want to receive? Like, do you have anything when you come into dating that you're very clear on?
Yeah, it's definitely how I feel. I feel like energy is everything. Like a lot of people are like actions speak louder than words, which yes, but I think the energy behind what people are doing is what's more important. And you feel that, especially as sensitive people or people that are more probably, I guess, spiritually inclined, you definitely sense the shift when someone's doing an action for you out of like their own generosity. You feel that as opposed to someone doing something kind of begrudgingly and they're like, "Ugh," there's such a difference in that. So it's very much paying attention to how my body feels while I'm with them. And then after I'm out of their presence, just paying attention to like, is there any weird anxiety that's coming up? Am I feeling restless? And like what's actually going on? But then obviously more in like the 3D realm, I think having shared values is really important. Like after my husband, the next guy that I dated, we just had very different lifestyles. Like they were into staying up late, wanting to eat takeaway, would never kind of set foot in the gym, just wanted to lounge. They were a real TV guy. I don't even have a TV. Like I don't watch TV. I don't like to sit around. Potentially ADHD. Like I get very restless. I like to be about doing stuff. And so I've just always wanted someone that at least has these shared values with like you can have your own hobbies and different things. I think that's really healthy and it's nice to have that interdependency. But having some sort of alignment in like core values, like my whole life is built around health and fitness. Like I work in the industry. I kind of live and breathe that. So to have someone that was so opposing it and so disinterested in that, I'm like, this isn't really going to work. Like, what are we doing together? I can't go watch another movie with you. So that's like one main thing. And then
Yeah.
just showing interest in things. So I'll often bring up pretty quickly with people that I'm newly talking to astrology and political things, particularly like feminism, because they're matters that obviously really are important to me, and just noting how they respond to it. Like oftentimes they don't really know much about astrology, but they can be like, ugh, astrology, like not that again, and just kind of turn their nose up at it and just be kind of rude. Or they can be like, I don't know anything about that, but that sounds really cool. And it's like there's such a difference just in that off the get go. You kind of get a taste of like how they're going to react to things. And also just, I don't know, understanding more about them. So I think it's common when you're first dating someone, you do try to put your best foot forward and almost like impress them. And I'm also mindful of the fact of like wanting to see the person for who they are and not the image they're portraying to me. But again, with my ex, when we first got together, they showed up wanting to do all these things that they know I would have
Hmm.
liked. And then a few months in, when I kind of got to see the real them, I realized that's not them at all. They were kind of just doing that to impress me. And I'm like, I don't even know who this person is. Like, we actually don't have anything in common. Like, I think all of that was just because you wanted to establish something. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. So, yeah, I think just looking out for those things early on. I think there's a lot of
Mm.
the red flag, green flag commentary that you see online, trying to tune that out because I think a lot of what is deemed as like a red flag could actually be a big green flag. Like for me, I love a man without really a social media going on. And for some people, they're like, that's a red flag because like, what if they're a psycho? And I'm like, I think it's great that they're like not concerned with social media and content and what's happening online and like a bit more plugged into the world around them and reality.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, were my little things for me personally.
Yeah. I love that. And I think, whether it's feminism, astrology, politics, call it whatever, I think it's the open mindedness and the
Mm.
curiosity, which I guess is the same way as you relate with friends. And that's why you connect. Not everyone knows about everything that you're interested in, but it's just that connection. And, I've found that that then applies to things like your menstrual cycle. Not every man
Mm.
knows how that works. Do you need to be interested in that? I mean, you don't need to, but if you're heterosexual and you date a woman, you kind of do need to be plugged in.
Yeah, it's
And so
nice
there's
to.
different things that define you as a woman, and it's important that they're curious about them because it's you.
Exactly. I'll show
Yeah.
interest in them. Like aqua golf. I would never have thought I would have done aqua golf, but now I love aqua
Yeah.
golf.
I would suck so bad. I am so clumsy.
I think I mastered because I've played golf before and I get frustrated because I just can't connect with the ball. It's like I get paranoid about smashing the grass with the club. So I seem to like miss it by an inch. And I finally figured out I just got to this flow state and I was just smashing ball after ball. And I was
There you
like, are you
go.
okay? Like, and I'm like, I figured it out. I love aqua golf now.
So
And another
good.
like important thing I think that I paid attention to, so after the first date, the second night, so we went out on the Friday night, the second night they'd FaceTimed me. And the FaceTime went for about 4 hours because I fell asleep an hour in.
That's so
An hour
cute.
in, I fell asleep on FaceTime. Yeah. And I feel like that to me, I was like, I obviously feel quite relaxed and safe because I can take a long time to fall asleep. I can, especially with like phones in front of me, but I remember feeling so calm, so relaxed. They weren't really talking, they were working on their car. So it's not like I just fell
Yeah.
asleep mid conversation. And then I just fell asleep. And then
Oh,
I was like, "It's actually a really beautiful sign for me to think, I think I feel very safe around this person," which is
definitely.
big.
It's huge.
Mm.
What would you say? I guess from my little understanding, it's been the year of the snake. We're going into the year of the fire horse, I think it is. Is there any symbolism around your 2025 as we kind of like getting close to the end of the year that you're letting go or inviting for the new year? And I guess there's a bit of astrology in that too.
Yes, there is. I find because I know obviously what's happening astrology wise. Like I wake up and will check like what is happening astrology wise. Like instead of I guess how people would check the news or the weather, I'm checking kind of where the planets are doing. And I find often what I'm already sensing intuitively and wanting feeling called to tends to be represented in like the cosmos as well. So I've been definitely feeling. I think a lot of us have with social media and the internet. It's like I think we're just so burnt out with it now. A lot more like social media is kind of dying. Like Instagram, I know especially. You used to be able to. You used to just post. You'd see your friends post in like chronological order, and now it's just like it's ads. It's people you don't know. Like you don't even get to see your friends' content. Like people with massive followings are like they're posting and they're like I'm not even getting any engagement anymore, and it can be really unsettling for people who have like built businesses on this and rely on that platform. But I've been feeling this such a. I've always loved like I'm a Gemini and my sun is in the 11th house, which is like the house that rules over kind of like networking and shared communities and things like social media. So I've always loved kind of being online and making content and talking online, like making videos. But I've just noticed in my body now such resistance to the internet and social media. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like I'm scrolling through this feed and seeing the same kind of content, just like rinsed and repeated. People just wearing the same thing, kind of saying the same things. Like we're just kind of parroting one another and getting so swept up in this online sphere, our nervous systems are shot and we're so kind of like out of touch with like our actual reality and our 3D reality and not allowing any time and space to like truly disconnect and unplug to actually reconnect with ourselves and with people that are in our actual physical world around us. And I think the energy is really going to shift that way in 2026. We're going to have the lunar nodes move into Leo and Aquarius. So like the south node is going to be in Leo, which is about like the past and what we're like letting go of, and it's like the tail of the snake, and the north node's like the head of the snake of like where we're destined to head towards. And Leo is that very like performative, kind of like the entertainer, the actor of like the zodiac. And so it's like we're putting to death this old persona of like the ego and needing to be curated and posed, and such emphasis on that part of ourselves and heading more towards these like community building, shared networks, shared values, actually like looking at humanity and the individual and focusing so much more of our energy on that. So I think in 2026 we're going to see much more of a rise of like more community based things coming out, and like a bit more of a death to like this online culture, like more analog experiences and endeavors are going to come to light now, which I've already been like craving myself. And then I was like looking into it for next year and I'm like, that kind of very much aligns. Like this year we saw a lot of major changes because all of the external outer planets were shifting signs all in one year, which is like a huge thing. And so now it's kind of like the dust is settling. We're kind of getting our footing with what this new trajectory kind of looks like. But I think it's going to come back more to just connecting one-on-one and with communities and in real life, and less about this performance and this online world that we used to get so obsessed with, because the internet was such a cool, fun thing. And we created all these apps to make life convenient, but I might we've made life so much more noisier and overstimulating, because it's like everything's an app. We need to be tracking everything and logging everything and downloading this. And I'm like, why? Like, we don't have to do any of that. Like, none of that matters. And so I think we're going to kind of like see this shift away from that, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, me too. That sounds amazing. And it's almost like that hamster wheel with technology just gets bigger and bigger, but we're all kind of running in this wheel, in this circle on repeat. And
Yeah.
oh, just even the sound of it being more analog and traditional and, you know, back to basics sounds amazing. I think it's definitely a general feeling that we're all craving. And, you know, the amount of rounds of burnout that one can go through in a year is now so wild compared to before, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's probably a general feeling of not doing enough, not being enough, not being present enough, not, you know, and all these feelings are just so detrimental to everyone's mental health. Therefore, mental health issues are definitely rising and rising more. So that sounds like a wonderful way of thinking of 2026. And also for many people that have been shedding in 2025, like you were saying, that dust settling sounds very grounding and comforting.
Yeah.
What would the Aquarian energy be bringing to next year? That was more like the Leo, or is that the blend of the two?
Yeah, the blend of the two. So Aquarian's going to be more like humanitarian focused, shared visions,
That makes sense.
communities, focusing on like our individual, like Aquarian's energy is very unique, and they are like the individual they want to kind of send out. They're doing things that are outside of the box and a bit like nuance, whereas Leo, it's like they want to be in the spotlight, they want to get all the attention. It's like every zodiac has like their kind of light and shadow traits to them. So it's more like looking at the shadow traits of Leo, of this ego, and putting that to bed, and then stepping more into like who is my most authentic self, and then how am I going to cultivate more authentic connections and true intimacy, because I'm going to have that level of self-awareness and vulnerability that can actually create these sustainable connections. But it's like loneliness, I think, is like one of the biggest killers and the biggest risk factors to our health, like all disease states. It's like loneliness is one of the biggest contributive factors to that. But like social media allows us to feel more connected, but it's like misleading, because it's like we're not actually truly connecting with anyone. We're just scrolling through a sea of people just showcasing the best parts of their life, while we're sitting here comparing ourselves positively or negatively. And where it's like the real connection comes from actual true in real time connections that are genuine and authentic, and you actually being allowed to show up as your full self. Kind of my experience being married and not being able to fully show all parts of myself and fully voice my needs, and likewise for him not being able to. It's like I'm just feeling so low and just like, what the heck is my life? I hate everything about it. But then, like, on paper, it's like your life looks great. Like, you've got a husband and you've got friends and you're in this church and you've got like this thriving social life and you've got this degree and you're doing this job of like what you love. But it was like I'm miserable because I just didn't have any like true connection to myself and to people around me.
So important. I've got one last question before we wrap up. If we were to speak again, say next year, end of 2026, what are you currently, if you feel like sharing this, manifesting, or where would you like to see yourself within the next year?
I've had this desire to move again. Um, so where I live now, it's where me and my ex were living in the same suburb, and I did love it here. But then when we split up, he owned the house, so I couldn't stay there. I went and lived with my sister for 6 months, and she's like, "We're building, and it's in the same suburb." And I was like, "You've never mentioned this before." Like again, everything just lined up for me. I didn't have to do anything, and have to work for it. Moved into this house that my sister and her partner own, and it just had been built, so it was like fresh built, moved in. It's like all fresh energy. It was beautiful,
So
and
good.
I loved it here. I've like cocooned here. This is like my little dream house, and now I'm feeling the itch of like, okay, I think I want something bigger. I don't know where. Like the idea of moving to New Zealand was really calling to me. Um, I haven't like looked into doing that. I just my way of kind of navigating life is just talking about it enough, and then it just kind of happens. So
Yes.
I'm like, could move to New Zealand. I would love to have a farm.
Hmm.
That's something I've always wanted to, and I just like the idea of just having more space, open space, gardens, like a lot. So I would love to be in a bigger space with like big
Mm.
rolling green hills and cows and all the rest of it. But none of that is even in the planning phase. It's just all up here in my brain. So
But up there in the
hopefully this time
brain,
next year, that's what I'm
yeah,
doing.
those are just little seeds, like, like that just is
Exactly.
little seeds. And the less you plan it, the better it'll happen if it's meant to happen.
Everything starts with a thought.
Yes. Well, I've got no more questions for you. I just want to say a huge thank you for sharing everything you've shared today.
Thank you. I really loved this. Didn't expect to talk about what we talked about. Like, I obviously just knew we were going to talk about whatever, but yeah, I kind of love where the conversation went.
Amazing. Thanks, Brett. I'm really glad. I hope we can have another chat down the line, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you. Sounds good.